Hello everyone, my name is John from Vulgar Kitten Studios, and this is part 3 of our MySQL, PHP, Unity, JSON, however many layers of technology this is, data saver system. So in this tutorial what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of the PHP part, or not get rid of it, but get that over with just because I want to get it done. So we've already gotten the user and data models set up. We don't need to do anything else with those, and we don't need to do anything else with the database. So let's just go ahead and do what we do need to do. So let's just go ahead and go into our roots file. So if you're unaware of how Laravel works, which really that probably should be a prerequisite of using a system like this, or a prerequisite of using Laravel before you get into using a system like this and at least know a little bit of PHP. But if you're unaware of how Laravel works, basically whenever we create a page or if we create a URL such as, your domain / whatever, you have to actually create a root for it. So we're going to be doing that in this file. And since this is a really small system, we're only going to add 2 more roots. We're not even going to use any filters or anything like that. However, if you're making like a web player game and you want to include your authentication, like if you want to have like a login system that's powered by Laravel, then you'll probably wind up putting this under your authenticated filter. Alright, so with that said, let's go ahead and create our route. So we'll say route get, and the first route that we're going to make is game data. For the controller, uh, not game but get data for the method, and the parameters that we're going to be using is the user ID. So that way you can actually cross-reference your user table with your user data table using whatever logic that you want to. So I'm going to go ahead and say it like that, and I'm not going to use the RESTful controllers. I'm going to actually explicitly tell it what to call it and what to use. So we're going to use it as, let's see, get game data is going to be the root's name, and we're going to say that it uses the game controller at get data. And these controllers and methods don't actually exist yet, so let's go ahead and create that. So the relationship between a route and what it actually is setting up is to the controller. So if we open up our controllers file, we can see we have this base controller, home controller stuff. Those are really irrelevant except for the base controller. You got to keep your base controller, but if you wanted to delete that home controller, you could totally do that. You would just lose that default welcome page. But anyway, yeah, we'll go ahead and create a new file, and we're going to call this game controller.php. And I'm going to go ahead and open up PHP and make a class called game controller, and that is going to extend the base class. See why you don't want to get rid of that? Alright, so we're going to go ahead and make a public function called get data, and we're going to pass it an ID. Okay, so if you still don't see exactly what's going on, we'll go back into our roots file. We can see that when the user goes to our domain and goes to /game data /get data / whatever the number of the ID is, that's actually going to access this game controller file that we just created with this get data method that we just created here. Alright, so what we want to do here is we actually want to create a data variable, and we want to retrieve data from the database for the user. So we'll use our data model, and we'll say where the user ID is equal to the ID that we pass into the method, and we want to get the first result off of that. Then we just want to data. So all we want to do is just display as text the data field that is stored in our user data table in our database. And it's as simple as that. So we'll go ahead and just give the users the ability to save data. So we'll create another root, and this is going to be a post root because we're going to be using the post method rather than get as far as passing data through the HTTP request, we're going to be using post. So we'll use route post. Alright, so we'll say game data, not data qua. Game data save data this time, that's the URL. And we still want to pass in an ID. And we'll do our array here. And we'll say that is as, and of course, instead of getting game data, we're saving game data now. And we'll say this uses the game controller at post save data. And we'll have to come back into our game controller in here and create that method now. So we'll say public function post save, I called it data, right? And we'll have to give it a parameter of an ID. And in here, we'll just do the same sort of thing. We'll say data is equal to data where the user ID is equal to the ID. We want to get the first result, and then we'll actually store the data. So we'll say data, so the data field in our database is equal to input get, and whatever you're going to actually call the data when you submit the form from within Unity. So just to keep things simple, I'm going to call it data. And then we just have to use the data save method to actually execute that query. So you can see how useful Eloquent is here. It's just simple lines of code. You don't even have to write any SQL yourself, so that's what's so brilliant about it. And that's the reason that I actually opted to go with this framework rather than build my own PHP scripts and stuff like that. Just because it's super simple and you can completely integrate this with a website however you want to. Alright, so that pretty much does it for our PHP side. From now on, we'll actually be working in Unity, and in our next video, we'll go ahead and set up our main menu UI and just get that out of the way. Alright, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.